It is perceived that Opus Dei has always used and tries to use the church, using the church as a political entity to achieve its ambitions for power within it. This is, of course, not a surprise to anyone, again, who has been kind of looking into Opus Dei for a while. I did an entire video on Opus Dei's relationship with the Vatican. I think that it is a quid pro quo / tit for tat / you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours type of relationship between Opus Dei and the Vatican, which unfortunately means that I don't necessarily have a ton of high hope for serious reform within the organization, because the kind of reform that is needed would mean that Opus Dei would no longer be able to function in the way that it is. It would not be able to continue to have its cake and eat it too. And I think that the Vatican knows that, and the Vatican, I believe, in my opinion, benefits from Opus Dei and from them being what they are. And it's no surprise to read something like that referenced here in this document. It's only common sense. They go on to say that Opus Dei has demonstrated a pattern of deceit, manipulation, and self-referentiality in its relationship with the church, which, of course, it's always been about Opus Dei and their own internal goals and whatever is driving them at that particular point in time. It has always been that case, and it always will be. It is imperative that these issues be addressed seriously and responsibly. The Church, together with the competent authorities, must carry out a thorough investigation and take the necessary measures to correct these practices and protect those who have been victims of abuse and manipulation. Hear, hear. So going on to the next part of this, we start to get into the state and civil aspect of Opus Dei, which again is just incredibly interesting. Go and read through it all in your own time, but here are some of the things that stood out to me. Opus Dei has used the importance of numbers to gain respectability and credibility. This is, I believe, an example of coordinated manipulation. They are well aware of the fact that the numbers that they profess to carry are not accurate. But it doesn't really matter because nobody can really call them on it, and it makes them look really, really good. There is no consideration of moral obligations when talking about money. The Opus Dei acts in economic matters through opaque commercial companies interposed, secretly controlled by the prelature. Of course, this is not a so secret fact. Again, if you have been kind of paying attention and keeping your ear to the ground of Opus Dei, at some point, you probably have heard of the Woodlawn Foundation and other various foundations and orgs that Opus Dei kind of hides behind. It's very, very annoying, but on top of that, it's also very harmful, and in addition to using it to financially aid their efforts, Opus Dei also uses it to kind of make sure that their hands are kept clean. As an example, in Argentina, Opus Dei has formed 17 interposed companies that own a huge amount of assets. This handling of different associations allows that, in the case of auxiliary numeraries, for example, if there is a labor trial for unpaid wages, most likely the person will have to sue 5 different interposed associations that own the different buildings where they have worked. This makes successful litigation practically impossible if you do not have a law firm capable of following each case. This is, of course, probably referring to the 43 women in Argentina who came forward and said that they had never been paid for all of the years of work that they dedicated to Opus Dei. I really, really hope that their legal team is up for this battle, because it looks like it's going to be a long one, and those women and everyone else who has given so much to this organization and been given nothing in return, they absolutely deserve some type of compensation, and I really, really hope that it happens. Another example is the case of sexual abuse during a camp organized by a men's club, a corporate work of Opus Dei. In response to the complaint, they responded that Opus Dei had nothing to do with it, since the Interposed Society was the organizer of the activities and that Opus Dei was only in charge of spiritual direction. That is just so slimy and deceitful. I would be shocked if I did not know exactly what I was dealing with. It makes the existence of these different organizations and associations, it makes their existence a lot more sensical to me, and makes sense to me that they exist in the first place, because Opus Dei obviously needs them. The authors go on to talk about this criterion that is experienced as a kind of omerta, and I looked that up, and it's a mafia term that means a code of silence about criminal activity and a refusal to provide evidence to the authorities. They say that, as it is known, the omerta implies a categorical prohibition of cooperating with state authorities or using their services, even when one has been victim of a crime. A person must avoid interfering if they see something that is not correct and cannot report a crime to the authorities under any circumstances. And because of this, here are some of the things that Opus Dei has covered up. Sexual abuse committed by members of Opus Dei in Chile, Spain, USA, Uruguay, and Argentina. The destination of fugitive members for embezzlement and fraudulent bankruptcies, affecting thousands of victims in Uruguay, Paraguay, Mexico, Spain, and Argentina. Financial crimes and documentary falsification, or avoiding to giving data. Crimes of illegal transfers of people, adults and minors, through cross-border crossings in Paraguay, Bolivia, and Argentina. For those of you listening at home, that's human trafficking. The falsification of documents such as fee receipts and international cooperation fund programs for expenses not authorized by the program. Crimes such as the improper use of stamped and signed medical stubs and receipts used by center directors to prescribe medicines to other members or buy at a discount, falsifying the supposed patient. Conducting black money from the salary of numeraries in the form of donations to interposed companies to achieve tax benefits in the personal income tax return. And they say that recently a priest from the Priestly Society of the Holy Cross, in reference to this immoral aspect of Opus Dei, and in clear self-criticism, told us in confidence that the permanent cancers of the church have always been power, money, and hypocrisy. When does this thing metastasize past the point that it's able to be controlled? Especially in the case of Opus Dei. And are we at that point yet? You know, it's kind of like that country song, you gotta know when to hold 'em, you gotta know when to fold 'em, you know, I gotta know when to walk away, you gotta know when to run. I think we're well into running territory. Personally. About the numerary auxiliaries, they say this, that they are treated as victims of authentic slavery and human trafficking. Although currently, due to various judicial sentences against Opus Dei, the auxiliary numeraries have access to Social Security, the institution continues to violate and distort the truth in relation to the contributions of these women who never charged for their work actually carried out in the institution. Even to date, a tenured member, a judge in Argentina, has told a journalist that Opus Dei does not pay them, nor would they pay their sisters. So basically, the only time that Opus Dei ever does anything correct is if they are forced to by a more powerful legal authority. Otherwise, it's within their best interest to continue to skirt the law. It's within their best interest to recruit from insanely young pools of people who do not have a fully formed brain yet, do not have a fully formed personality or perspective of the world. It's within their best interest to recruit these people insanely young. It's within their best interest to recruit from communities of people who are perhaps not very economically well off, who are desperate for opportunity and will take a chance on something like this and send one of their young daughters off to live in one of these centers to work, ostensibly under the concept of learning to earn a living wage, but we know that that's not what happens. And then within this document, we have testimonies of sexual assaults and suicides and human trafficking and all kinds of fraud. I mean, how you come back from this, I do not know.